Rome did not go to war because of anger, pride, or revenge. Every campaign was calculated like an investment. Before armies marched, Roman leaders asked one question: what profit will this war produce? Unlike most ancient states, Rome treated war as an economic operation. Victory without profit was considered failure. War had to return value through land, labor, or long-term taxation. Soldiers, weapons, and logistics required massive investment. Rome understood that armies were expensive machines. If a war could not repay its cost, it was delayed or avoided entirely. Generals were not just commanders, they were managers of future income. Every battlefield victory was judged by how much wealth it could generate afterward. This logic created a powerful cycle. Profitable wars funded stronger armies. Stronger armies won more profitable wars. Rome's rise followed discipline, not chance. Rome conquered differently from most empires. Instead of destroying cities, it preserved them. Rome understood a simple truth: that a living city produces wealth, ruins do not. Farms were left standing, ports continued operating, workshops reopened quickly, economic life resumed almost immediately after Roman conquest. Local populations were absorbed, not erased. Taxes could be collected, goods could be traded, labor could be organized without interruption. Even local elites often kept their positions. Loyalty was rewarded with stability. Cooperation was more profitable than resistance under Roman rule. By preserving economic systems, Rome avoided endless rebuilding. Each conquest strengthened the empire instead of draining it. This made Roman expansion uniquely sustainable. For Rome, land mattered more than gold. Gold could be spent once. Land produced wealth forever through food, settlement, and taxation. After conquest, land was carefully divided. Some went to the state, some to elites, some to soldiers as retirement rewards. This system ensured loyalty within the army. Soldiers fought knowing victory meant land and security, not just honor. Farms produced grain, olives, and wine. Cities were fed, trade expanded. Rome reduced famine risk and stabilized population growth. Land ownership bound elites to the empire. Taxation bound land to the state. Territory became resilience. In Rome's system, land was permanent power. Slavery was not accidental in Rome, it was designed. Every conquest delivered thousands of enslaved people, instantly expanding the empire's labor force without increasing wages or long-term financial obligation. Enslaved labor-powered farms, mines, construction sites, and elite households. Because slaves were unpaid, production costs collapsed across the economy, making large estates and resource extraction massively profitable. This surplus value flowed upward. Landowners grew richer, merchants expanded operations. The state benefited through higher output and greater taxable wealth. But the system reshaped society. Free labor lost value. Small farmers could not compete. Wealth concentrated rapidly into fewer hands across the empire. Slavery accelerated Roman growth for centuries. It allowed massive infrastructure and military expansion at minimal cost. The system worked, even as it quietly planted instability beneath the empire. Rome's taxation system was not chaotic, it was systematic. Taxes were standardized, enforced by law, and collected with relentless consistency across the empire. Land taxes, trade duties, and personal taxes formed the foundation of state revenue. Every economic activity generated income for Rome. Italy was protected. The provinces paid more. Rome shifted financial burden outward, reducing resistance at the core while maximizing extraction from conquered regions. Predictability encouraged investment. Merchants knew what to expect. Trade expanded under stable rules instead of fear and randomness. Taxes funded armies, roads, and administration. They were not just revenue, they were the glue that held Rome's economic system together. Rome's roads were not built for war alone, they were economic weapons. Every road reduced costs, increased speed, and expanded trade. Goods that once took weeks now moved in days. Farmers reached new markets. Merchants expanded operations across entire regions. Roads allowed Rome to move taxes, supplies, and information with precision. Control was no longer local, it became imperial. Ports, warehouses, and roads formed ancient supply chains. The empire functioned as one integrated economic machine, not isolated provinces. Infrastructure was a long-term investment. Rome maintained its roads relentlessly. The return was multiplied wealth and unbreakable control. Rome understood a simple truth: money is power. By minting coins across the empire, Rome imposed a unified monetary system that reshaped trade, taxation, and daily life. Roman coins carried the image of emperors and state symbols. Every transaction reinforced authority, legitimacy, and loyalty without the need for force. A common currency reduced friction, markets expanded, trade accelerated across regions that once used incompatible local systems. More importantly, currency enabled efficient extraction, taxes, wages, and payments flowed smoothly toward the state through standardized money. Accepting Roman money meant accepting Roman rule. Currency bound distant provinces economically, making rebellion costly and integration unavoidable. Among all Roman territories, Egypt stood apart. Its fertile Nile Valley produced grain on a scale unmatched anywhere in the empire. Rome recognized this power immediately. Egypt was placed under direct imperial control, bypassing the Senate to protect its strategic value. Grain shipments from Egypt fed Rome's massive urban population. Stable food supply meant stable prices and political calm. Bread distribution became social control. A fed population was loyal, manageable, and less likely to revolt. Egypt was not just a province, it was the empire's heartbeat. Without it, Rome's entire economic system risked collapse. As Rome expanded, wealth did not spread evenly. It flowed upward, towards senators, equestrians, and provincial collaborators. These elites accumulated land, trade networks, and tax rights. Their fortunes grew alongside the empire itself. Their wealth tied them to the system. As long as Rome expanded, elites benefited, reinforcing imperial stability. But inequality deepened, small landholders vanished, urban poverty increased beneath growing luxury. For now, elite enrichment strengthened Rome, wealth and power merged, creating a ruling class dependent on constant expansion. By this stage, Rome had built something rare in ancient history, a self-feeding economic machine where every system reinforced the next. Military conquest produced land, slaves, and tribute. That wealth funded roads, ports, and cities across the empire. Infrastructure expanded trade, trade increased markets, markets raised tax revenue that flowed steadily back to the state. Taxes financed larger armies and stronger defenses, enabling further expansion even when individual campaigns failed. Wealth was no longer episodic, it became continuous, flowing through an integrated imperial economy unmatched in the Mediterranean world. Beneath Rome's wealth, hidden costs accumulated. The system depended on constant expansion to sustain revenue. When borders stabilized, income slowed, but expenses did not. Armies, administration, and infrastructure demanded constant funding. Slavery weakened free labor and slowed innovation. Small farmers vanished, while massive estates absorbed the land. Inequality deepened, urban poverty grew, provincial taxes fueled resentment and unrest at the edges. Rome was wealthy, but fragile. The same systems that created dominance narrowed its margin for error. By the end of this phase, Rome stood unmatched. Its wealth flowed from land, labor, trade, taxation, and infrastructure. The empire could mobilize resources across continents, feed massive cities, and fund standing armies year after year. But scale introduced pressure. Any disruption now carried empire-wide consequences. Rome was stronger than ever, yet more vulnerable than it appeared. Power, wealth, and responsibility had converged. This system would carry Rome to its peak and test its limits. In the next phase, we'll see whether Rome could sustain greatness without breaking. Subscribe to continue the journey.